Okay, the midterms were a bit of a mixed bag for the Republican Party, and the Georgia runoff, well, that didn't work out too well for them, with a Democrat now securing a majority there in the Senate. Donald Trump is wearing a bit of opprobrium over this. He's got a bit of egg on his face, apparently. If this was a trial run for 2024, Ami, it shows that Trump hasn't got the same momentum anymore. Do you reckon the Republican establishment are going to use this to justify trying not to give him the nomination?
Yeah, I don't think Trump thinks he has egg in his face. I think Trump thinks he did an excellent job, a wonderful job in the midterms. By the way, one quick comment before we get to Trump is I want to point out that everybody kept again the left. Their mantra is voter suppression. The Republicans are trying to suppress the black vote. That's what they keep trotting out that BS time and time again. And they were pushing this Georgia election. Look, all these laws, the voter ID, you have to show your ID to vote. What happened, of course? There was no voter suppression, and the black vote was massive, up 10% from 4 years ago. So it just blows that entire voter suppression argument out into the ether. When it comes to Trump, yeah, look, I think the Republican mainstream, the ones who are trying to move Trump back to the history of the Republican Party, will use it against him, and they'll have a lot of reason to. If you look across the spectrum of his candidates, they didn't do that well. Now, he did overall. He'll say, look, I was 50%, and that's true. Overall, he was 50%. But if you carve out the seats that were heavily favored toward Republicans, he lost 10 out of his 11 choices for those seats, including every single toss-up. So, no, when it came to competitive races, he did very, very poorly because he was pushing terrible, awful extremist candidates. Mastrioni in Pennsylvania was an absolutely awful candidate. Bolden in New Hampshire, and Herschel Walker, of course, in Georgia, despite the fact that, he had a leg up because, he's related to probably half of the Atlanta suburbs, yet he failed to he actually performed more, he was a poorer showing than he did in the runoff. And again, awful candidate, and going against an awful candidate, it was an opportunity here to pick off a terrible senator that people in Georgia, for the most part, didn't care for. But the fact they could not pick a candidate who was worthy enough to beat this guy shows you how poor Trump's ability is to pick candidates.
Yeah, I was particularly disappointed in Walker's performance because his opponent was terrible, but he didn't have enough money either. I mean, I think he was outspent 2-1 in that race. Now, speaking of a brewing competition, it seems our royal family and what has been adopted over there as your royal family, the insufferable Harry and Meghan, they've got this sob tour going out ahead of their Netflix documentary. They've just received a Human Rights Award from the Robert F. Kennedy Rights Foundation. They conveniently forgot that Harry dressed as a Nazi for a party once. What is going on in the US? Why are you embracing them, or are the sensible people over them like we are, and it's just the tabloid press that are pushing them as hard as they can?
Yeah, speak for yourself. I have not embraced them. Oh, I hate those two. And by the way, I did not forget that Harry wore the Nazi costume. Not at all. That's ingrained in my memory, unfortunately. I really have a strong dislike. Yeah, no, maybe hate is not strong. Is not too strong a word for that couple. They are among the most privileged, if not possibly the most privileged couple on planet Earth, yet they walk around claiming we're victims. We are victims of our privilege. And the ingratitude they have, in fact, they embody two of the worst human characteristics. Things that I hate the most are ingratitude and victimhood, and they embody both. But worse, they embody both when they are so privileged. He is a prince and she is a princess, or at least they were. And they are walking away with $100 million Netflix deal so people can listen to their whining. No thank you. Hard pass.
I'm with you there. I'm completely over them. I'll never talk about them on this show again. Ami Horowitz, thanks so much for your time, and all the best for the week ahead.